Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
Megyn Kelly, who is formerly a lawyer, now a brilliant podcaster. This was great. She went on a podcast to just debunk all of the nonsense around the Trump court cases, which is one of the ways they've tried to, let's say, deal with this existential threat.
We look at the 5 cases, 6 months from now, a year from now. Let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
I love this. E. Jean Carroll was guilty.
That was not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that
but there's a big difference.
It's still he was convicted. He was guilty of that. He got a settlement. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
That, again, was still civil, liable.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one...
she's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, of course. And in the third one, I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look at all 5 cases...
You said 3 convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's 3 in which he was...
You should walk it back.
Okay, I'm so glad Megyn is here.
Of the 5, 3 of them, he's either guilty or...
He got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megyn, and 5 of 5, he had a bad result, way to frame it, will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5 different jurisdictions. Yeah. You think it's all lawfare?
Jean Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit against him, and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said, we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6 defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit it out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about...
I think Jay Cal just lost his right to ever bring up lawfare again.
We're
done with your bullshit. It's over.
We're not here to hear my opinion.
Yeah, golf clap Megyn Kelly. But that's exactly what they are trying to do. You know, it is quite possible that all of the people that she just mentioned there, the prosecutors and everyone else involved in all of this lawfare against Trump, kind of knew that none of it was going to work. I actually do think that that is possible, but you would just keep him so distracted, so stuck in courtrooms, so having to deal with other issues and spend money on all of these things and worry about his businesses and family and whether he's going to end up in jail, that maybe he wouldn't want to run for president. It wasn't always just like, let's just destroy him in the most obvious sense. It might be, let's distract him enough so he can't run for president. Now, ironically, most people, it seem to understand that Megyn Kelly is right about that stuff and are not buying it anymore.